Aloha and welcome to our talk story with the Hawaii County Committee on the Status of Women. We are celebrating Malama Makuahine, Year of the Mother 2022, and we're highlighting the importance of those in the community who are supporting mothers and families within Hawaii County. So we have with us today Andrew Kahili of the Hawaii Island YWCA. So welcome, Andy. We aloha you for all the work you do for the community of Hawaii County, and we support you and hope that your program thrives along with the families that you serve. So without further ado, welcome, Andy, and please share with us a little bit about your program.
Thank you, Shana, and aloha. And thank you for this opportunity for having me come here and talk to you about not only our YWCA Healthy Families program, but the YWCA itself, right? And for myself, I've actually been part of the YWCA for over 30 years now. So, a lot of people consider me the old man at the YWCA. But, I think, some of the things I wanted to share is a little bit about the YWCA of Hawaii Island itself. And, a lot of people don't realize that the YWCA has been part of our community since 1919. So we have over 100 years history, right? And during that 100 years, we've actually had different types of programs that we've offered to not only the East Hawaii community, but the entire island of Hawaii, right? And some of the programs that we still have today is our developmental preschool. One of the very few preschools on the island that actually accepts children that are not potty trained into our preschool. And then we also have our sexual assault support services program. They operate the only 24/7 crisis hotline for the Big Island. And now, because of the pandemic, we're actually receiving calls that are out of state through that line. So, which is something different. And it's come about only recently with the pandemic. But the good thing with our sexual assault support services program is that they also provide counseling services to victims of domestic violence. Now, the sad thing is that the clientele for services ranges anywhere from 2 months old to 95 years old, which is very sad, but thank goodness those services are in place for those victims, right? And when you're talking about victims, you're primarily talking about women, and you're talking about somebody's child, somebody's daughter, somebody's mom, or mother, auntie, right? Grandparent, sister. So it's truly sad, but very fortunate that those services are here and available, right? Now, recently, over the last decade, we've actually seen a lot of reporting coming from the LGBTQIA community, which we haven't gotten prior to that, right? It was just exclusively women reporting, but I'm so happy that that community feels safe that they can actually report and access services. Then we also have our teen dating program. Which is a program for teens who are get into that age where they're looking at dating, and they come in to talk with our staff about some of the fears, challenges, experiences, or how do I go about doing it. So it's really a program just helping kids navigate that awkward dating period. Then we have our Healthy Families Early Identification and Home Visiting Program. Many people know it as the Healthy Start program, right? So for over 25 years, we were the Healthy Start program. But then, after receiving our accreditation through Healthy Families America, we actually changed our name to Healthy Families Hawai'i Island as part of the accreditation requirements. Yeah. So we're still a Healthy Start, but just that now we're Healthy Families, right? And we are primarily a 0 to 3 program. So, we work with prenatal, pregnant women and families who have recently delivered to their children or young children. Now, the interesting thing with our program is we're a long-term program. We're a 0 to 3 program. So families can stay until the child turns 3 years old, right? And it's interesting because if you look at our data, families actually stick and stay with the program. Yeah, I mean, who wants somebody coming in for 3 years, coming into your home for 3 years? But they actually do, and they stick with the program. Now, part of the reason is because of the type of services that we offer. Like I said, we're a home visiting program, and there isn't any guide or handbook to raising kids or raising children, right? I mean, even for those that have experience raising kids, it still can be challenging. And sometimes you just need that little help, support, guidance, right, from someone. Right? So, by meeting families where they are and by partnering with them, home visiting has that long-term effect on their health, safety, school readiness, maternal health, family stability, financial security, and mental well-being. Right? So, the staff that we have, they're from the community, right? So we hire from within the community that we're serving. So, a lot of families will identify with the staff, right? It's like, oh yeah, I've seen you at KTA, Walmart, right? Or, there's family connections. Because, even though we are the big island, it's really a small town, right? So the staff are well trained, they provide culturally competent, individualized services to all of the families. And then, our approach is relationship-based, and we culturally respect families, and we're family-centered, and we're grounded in a parallel process, which means that the relationships we build with parents and families will serve as the model for supporting positive relationships. And then, we hope that it will help them cultivate those relationships with their own children and their families. Yeah. So right now, our program capacity is on any given day, we can serve up to 68 families. I know that doesn't sound like a lot of families that we're working with, but we want to make sure that we have the capacity to work well with every single family that we see and we touch. And this is one of the reasons why we have a limit on caseloads, so that the staff can really invest that time and commitment with every single family. And then, in looking at our numbers, so in 2019, we served 78 families. 2020, we served 79 families. And then in 2021, we served 23 families. Now, what that tells you is that families are sticking with the program. Because, we have a very limited number of openings for families to come into our program. So, they're finding value in the services that we're providing, because otherwise they wouldn't be sticking. They wouldn't be staying. They wouldn't be wanting to come back again, you know? So, you know, we're just amazed at how well and receptive the community is to our services that we provide. You know, during the pandemic, we were just, hit like everyone else with having to shelter in place. Right? It's like, all right, okay, we got all shelter in place. So overnight, we had to make that transition from an in-person service to a virtual service. And we were just fortunate that we had the equipment and technology available to make that transition. So overnight, we were able to go from an in-person setting to a virtual platform. Right? I mean, of course, yeah, there was struggles, it was new to everybody and everything else, but we were able to make that transition. We were also amazed or surprised that we only had a small number of families who didn't have the capacity to meet with us virtually, which was shocking, but I guess it's the times, right? Everyone had some kind of device, whether it be a smartphone, iPad, computer, etc., that they could actually meet with us virtually. Now, we were also surprised that families wanted to continue services and meet with us, right? I mean, we thought, with the pandemic and everything going on and sheltering in place, right? And people not knowing what's happening the next day, that they wouldn't have time or be available. Well, what we found was that there was an increased need for our services, especially during the initial sheltering in place, right? So just because you're sheltering in place doesn't mean that you're safe, right? I mean, it's basically you're on lockdown, right? And you're trying to deal with being locked on that lockdown, and then, everyone's home and don't know what's going to happen with your job, school, right? Or obtaining food, etc. Can be very stressful and a toll on your mental well-being, right? So by having our staff available for families, it really proved to be a blessing, because what we found was that the virtual platform allowed more access to us, right? So, there was no longer that typical business hours or office hours. I mean, we were able to meet with families whenever, 7 days a week. So there's been challenges, burdens caused by the pandemic, but there's also been some blessings and positive outcomes by the pandemic. And I think, having the capacity to be more accessible to families in their time of need, or just to be there, has proven to be life-saving for some of the families. I mean, some of the families have told us that, I don't know what would happen if you folks weren't available and there for me during my time of need. And then what we've also found is that, it's also become a family affair for some of our families where, everybody gets on with the virtual visit, right? So, we are definitely fulfilling needs that are different since the pandemic has hit us, right? So there's lessons learned from, when we are providing services in person and providing services virtually. Even after the pandemic is over and we're able to go back to in-person services, we're still looking at keeping the virtual as a part of it, or a combination with in-person services available for families. Now, our program, we actually use a multidisciplinary team approach. So when a family accepts services, are deemed eligible and accept services, from the moment they accept services, all of our services are available to them. So besides getting assigned a family support specialist, which is the primary person that will visit with them on a weekly basis, and they also have access to our counseling or therapy services. And then we also have a child development specialist, right? So basically the child development specialist will actually help to monitor the child's growth development, or the parents have concerns, questions. Well, I mean, you might have a 2-year-old and you're thinking, well, he only can say 15 words. Is that normal? Or, should he be saying more? Should he be putting in sentences? So then actually, those are the kind of questions that we can hand off to our child development specialist, and they can work individually, one-on-one with the families, right? And then, overall, we work as a team. So the families really have a whole team that they can access anytime. So you never feel alone. It's like that extended ohana that you're working with. And there also is a team supervisor, right, that they can touch in with. And then, families also call me. So that's kind of a snapshot of our program.
Oh, that is wonderful. You're located only on the Hilo side, or?
Yeah, so let me just share a little bit more about the program. So I'm going to share our screen so you can kind of get a visual. And hopefully you can see the map that I'm sharing. Yeah. So we are actually contracted to the State of Hawaii Department of Health to provide early identification and home visiting services. And we are just one of the providers in the statewide program. And the program's name is the Yohana Network. So what you see before you is the map, the Big Island. And you see the colored area on the East Hawaii side and the West Hawaii side, which they have it labeled wrong here. Sorry about that. It should be opposite on the East and West Hawaii. But anyway, we provide services only in the East Hawaii area. And then the Keiki Aina actually provides the home visiting services in the West Hawaii area. Now, as you can see, we are on a Big Island, and you can see it's a large service area in both East and West Hawaii. And we provide services. So for us, our service area covers everywhere from Volcano Village, right, down to Kalapana, all the way out to Honolulu. So that's our service area. So when we're doing in-person services, there's a lot of travel that happens. And then again, the services that we provide is replicated throughout the state in all of these different communities.
That's wonderful to hear. We really need you on our island, in our county. You mentioned the childcare component. Tell us just a little bit about the demographics. Do you see a lot of single parents coming in, single mothers with needs because they can't afford the childcare costs somewhere else? And then how that was affected by the pandemic, and then what's the status now of your childcare options?
So for the Healthy Families program, we don't provide childcare services, but our development of preschool does. And the pandemic, our preschool got hit hard by the pandemic, right? Because they remained open throughout the pandemic, but then with the ever-changing restrictions for childcare providers, they had to make adjustments. So originally, they were limiting the number of children they could actually enroll in a preschool and provide services to. But then we are fortunate with our downtown Uralani campus that we were able to expand the preschool into our multipurpose hall, where we used to have an array of classes. So we actually had to stop classes so we could utilize the hall and expand the preschool. Right? Today, our preschool is, I would say, 80% back to its normal capacity due to the expansions that were made. Right? And what we're seeing is that with a lot of our families, they are having a struggle to pay for that childcare on a monthly basis. But fortunately, there is an array or different type of funds available, right, out there for families to tap into. I think one of the biggest funders that is helping to support kids in getting enrolled in preschool is Keiki Scholars. We have a lot of kids that are part of Kamehameha School's Keiki Scholarship. Right, so fortunate. And as far as the demographics in our program, in our home visiting program, I'd have to say, at least close to 70% of our families are Hawaiian or Native Hawaiian. So that is and I would say probably 80% of them are single parents. And then we do have a small number of families where dads are the primary person that we're conducting the business with because mom is out there working the full-time job.
Yeah, so that's the importance of helping the parents, so they can get on better footing. I know that a lot of times there's only bad news reported from Hawaii Island, and it would be nice to have more of these stories where there's successes and there's engagement with the Hawaiian community as well as the larger community. So I really appreciate your efforts in helping our families, especially those who have struggled through the pandemic and who will continue to struggle because a lot of jobs have been lost and homes and such. So we hope that the wider community can also support and kokua your efforts, because we really need more of this in our county. As you have pointed out, that the area of coverage is not the whole island. So it would be good to expand upon that. And that would be my last question is, what are your plans for the future and how can parents, mothers in particular, for the Ohana, sign up and get involved with your programs? Share with us that, please.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because, prior to 2000, the Healthy Start program was actually in every single community in the state of Hawaii. There was services everywhere, right? But then, in 2000, a lot of cuts came by and we just started slashing the program from that point forward to what you see today. So, of course, every community could utilize a home visiting program. I mean, think about it, that is really a sense of community where you have services that are going to where they are instead of where they have to go out and seek out those services. How culturally appropriate is that when you have someone who's coming up to you instead of you going out to them, right? For us, funding is always the number one question. Where are we going to get funding from? How are you going to maintain that funding? So, there's a lot of advocacy going on at all levels, whether it be from us, from the community, from legislators, or whoever else. We always need support. Right? One of the things that stands out for me was when years ago, back in 2008, we were looking at being eliminated. Our funding was being on the chopping block, and we were looking at being eliminated. So, we're thinking, well, what are we going to do? So we decided to reach out to the community, right? So we were able to get one of the Tribune Herald reporters to talk to us. And we were just amazed at the support we got from the community. So the article went on and we asked people to send letters of support. Yeah. So just our program alone, we got over 7,000 letters of support, to the point where the Capitol Print House, or I don't know what copy place, were calling us to tell us stop sending faxes. But that just tells you, I mean, letters were coming from doctors, from businesses, from families, from school principals. I mean, it was coming from everywhere. But that just tells you the need for services, right? So, that was eye-opening to us. And it really spoke to how valuable and needed these type of services are for our community. So, we are always looking for anyone who's interested in talking to us about our services and how they can help, get involved. And, like anything else, it costs money to do business, but, we're going to do whatever we can with whatever means that we have available to us.
Yeah, and the last question would be, how can our families get involved and engage in your programs, and what's the cost? So we know that there probably is going to have to be something offered to those who don't have the means. So it just kind of give us an overview of how families and mothers can get involved, and why it's so important to do this as preventative, so that families don't end up in worse situations.
Mm-hmm. So right now, once a family is deemed eligible for it, there is no cost involved. It's provided to them all free, and it's absolutely voluntary. Right? So once you get offered the service, there's no contract that you sign that you have to stay for 3 years. It's completely voluntary. Right? Now, the way families can get involved is we actually do involve the families that are enrolled in our program. Prior to the pandemic, we were attending different community fairs and events, and we actually would have families come and man our booth. Who better to promote and recruit for the program than those that are in the program? So we'd have families recruiting new families to come into our program. We also have graduates from our program and our staff. And then we've actually have families join us in our presentations at various conferences throughout the state of Hawaii. And so there are different ways. And then, even with the dads, right, we have what we call, when prior to the pandemic, we used to have our parent-child interaction social groups, right? So even for our enrolled dads, we give them jobs. Okay, you're in charge of parking stroller parking, so make sure that's taken care of. You're in charge of the food distribution. I mean, you're in charge of the story time. So there's different ways people can get involved, and we always are open to anything people want to do to try and help us.
Wonderful. I do believe that your program is very crucial to the health of our community, because also that the traditional ohana system is not always in place for our families. The generational wisdom is sometimes being lost through not only the pandemic, but just changes and evolutions within our social structures. So it's really important to have this kind of program and consistency, so that actually you're building upon culture and you're building upon the local community. And even though the Y is a, nationwide, here in Hawaii, made it something that's personalized to our culture. Our ohana, our healthy families of Hawaii Island are so grateful and fortunate and blessed to have you folks here. So we at the Hawaii County Committee on the Status of Women really appreciate your efforts. And I as well have benefited from your programs, even on Oahu. So I really hope to see more from you folks to support and to strengthen the Lahui and the greater community and those in need of your services. Thank you so much, Andy, for joining me today and for sharing about your program. We encourage everyone to support you, the YWCA of Hawaii Island, and so that your services can expand to everyone on the island that needs it. So mahalo nui for your time today, and we look forward to hearing more about you in the future and that greater success for our families.
I just want to say thank you so much, Sharon, for this opportunity to talk with you today, and I truly appreciate that you folks are doing this, and then to have this year-long celebration of moms and mothers, is something that should happen every year. Because moms, they hold a special position in the family, a special and unique position in the family, where they are the influencers, not only their children but their family, right, for the rest of their life. So again, thank you so much for the opportunity and for coming on today to talk a little bit about our program. Again, I invite anyone to reach out to me or reach out to any of us at the YWCA to learn more about our program, or if you have any questions. And I guess, the last thing I wanted to do then is share with you my contact information so that, you guys can reach out to me. What I'm sharing with you is my contact information. So, again, I'm Andy Kahili, and I'm the Community Relations Events Officer and Program Director for YWCA of Hawaii Island here in Hilo. And then my telephone number is 930-5727. And you also can reach me via email at akahili@ywcahawaiiisland.org. Thank you so much, and mahalo.